name is Jesus Arias. I take care of business development at the KNX Association. And I'm very lucky to be the moderator of this panel discussion today. Thank you for choosing our track. I say I'm very lucky to be moderating this panel discussion because I think it encapsulates very well the spirit of FLEXCON. We have two amazing panelists with us. Tamika is a product manager of virtual power plants at Sonnen, a very well-known battery and inverters manufacturer. And Martin is the founder and product manager at xxter, a company from Netherlands that, among other things, develops home energy management systems. Both our companies are members of the KNX Association and contribute to the landscape of flexibility, energy, and the topic we are discussing today. But I would like you, please give us a few words about your work and what you do in our industry, please.
Yes, certainly. Yes, I'm the product manager for xxter, and we've been around now for 15 years making automation solutions for the home and for the building. And recently we added the energy management system to allow all the systems in the home to be managed automatically and always suited to the user's need. So it's a user-centered solution for energy management. So that's why we're here.
Hi everyone, my name is Tamika. I'm product manager VPP for Sonnen. So quick intro, Sonnen is a global leader in home battery storage and connectivity solutions, with the USP being connecting these storage and other flexible loads to our virtual power plant. And I'm here today because Sonnen batteries are in the KNX universe since 2019, being the first battery manufacturer integrated into KNX world. And this autumn we're actually upgrading it, and we will publish our new product, so KNX Module 2.0, which will then not just enable the user to read and visualize the data of the Sonnen battery in his KNX world, but also able to steer the battery out of his hands in the KNX, which is once again groundbreaking, the first battery manufacturer worldwide doing that.
Thank you. So you can see they provide a nice view on the topic we are discussing today. FLEXCON is amazing. I've been already enjoying the discussions, and obviously this topic goes from the appliances to the grid operators. Allow me to put the magnifying glass on the infrastructure at home and building, at the field application level. I have a very quick, brief intro that will set the ground for the discussion with the panelists. So, a few thoughts to share with you. The energy issue, that's why we are here, right? So, we've been experiencing a big change in the market. I don't want to talk too much about it. We all here know about it. But for example, there is a big transition to electrical-based appliances, especially in HVAC, and that changes how energy is consumed at household level, also electric vehicles. So this is putting a lot of pressure on the grid. All right. Also, the prosumer concept. There's not only consumers anymore, but also producers. How do we put this in the equation of the energy at household level? The energy balance is at stake. If you recognize that beautiful peninsula, I lived 6 years in Cape Town, South Africa. Some years ago, we started to experience load shedding. That was a new word for me. What is load shedding? Load shedding means the production cannot keep up with the demand, so they shut down entire areas in order to avoid a total shutdown of the grid. Today, ESCOM, the operator of this grid in South Africa, is implementing load shedding stage 8, which means that you are up to 8 hours without electricity in your house or building a day. So this is not only a problem in South Africa, it's a problem worldwide, and countries are using this as a reference. How can we avoid this in the future? So people are doing this, very rudimentary lead-acid batteries connected to inverters with no solar panels. They're just making the problem worse because they are demanding more energy when the poor grid is trying to keep up with the demand. So the solutions that we see from our perspective, there is a lot of data going on today. I don't want to make it worse with more graphs, but long story short, homes account for 27% of the energy consumption. Could be more, could be less, but it's a big chunk, so someone has to do something. So what do? We improve grid stability by making houses aware of the grid situation, and they need to react with internal load shedding, for example, in order to help the grid to work efficiently. So the role of technology from the perspective of an international standard like KNX is to provide a comprehensive landscape of interoperability at application level. So that means that without locking the user with a brand, you can create a network of control at load level application from HVAC systems, from energy storage systems, lighting, you name it, all coordinated, speaking one language in order to orchestrate the consumption so that that house is a solution and not a problem in the energy balance. That's the quick intro about what this discussion is about. We want to talk from the perspective of the household. What can we do? All right, so our panelists, now is your opportunity. Martin, please, just a quick, in this changing industry, how we understand energy at household level, what is your first feelings, thoughts about this?
Yes, in the past, energy was always abundant. There were not many choices in energy suppliers, so you just had electricity and it always worked. It was never a problem. And now with the solar panels and the peaks in production that we have, and in some parts of the world, big problems with the availability of energy, people are getting more and more aware that they have to change their behavior, and this will affect their homes, and either people want to contribute or they are aware that they need to change and need to work to make this better and working better. So you see a big rise in customer awareness on the home level.
Mm-hmm. You already said one of the key words that I've heard already a few times today, behavior. Tamika?
Yeah, I want to touch on the customer awareness because that's what comes to my mind when I talk about energy at the moment, that really everyone, after last winter, at least in Europe, is aware of what energy really means and what it costs for us. And so we do see a big evolution of people caring about energy, about low reliable prices, independency, about backup solutions, and so it's in everyone's mouth.
One thing is clear that I realized today: energy doesn't go alone, it goes with data. It is data at any level. From your perspective of home energy management systems, energy storage, what's happening with this data? Is this data used only locally? Do we need data from the grid, like for example, tariffs? Do you need to share the data of your clients with third parties? no one is really making a clear statement about this. What is your opinion, Tamika?
So we need data on both sides. Obviously, we need it locally for the offline modus, so for sure. But we also need to have it online and in a cloud-based solution to do good forecasts. So it's a both. It's a silver lining where to have it. One point definitely is how long do we need the data storage for? How quick need it to be accessible? And also it's a matter of costs, obviously, as well. But I clear both.
Yes, especially the public data you have to have available. For instance, if you want to schedule your devices, you need to know the weather forecast to know whether your solar panels will produce. So data like that has to be available. On the other hand, the user data, I believe, should be kept locally because, as you said, you want your home to be operating even without an internet connection. That if the router goes down and you cannot connect anything to your house anymore and not turn on your dryer or your washer, that would be an issue. So keep it locally where possible and publicly where it's not private data.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is clear that these systems are helping the grid, and before legislation is taking place, standardization. I mean, we are all working on that as we speak. I see there are already many sandboxes of companies trying these projects here, people deploying this at household level. I mentioned I have internal load shedding in my own house. So it looks like the initiative, good practices are being learned from the bottom-up approach, but probably we need a top-down initiative to make this mainstream. So from your perspective of manufacturers and developers of solutions, how can this be deployed at a large scale? What do you think, Martin?
Well, from top down, governments can do a lot to stimulate the right behavior, either with legislation or better with, for instance, maximum tariffs or stimulants for people to adapt their behavior. But seducing them and getting them on board, I think will help better than forcing new rules into people's homes, because you see that people are also, because they don't know what to do, they kind of quit and will not innovate and not change, because then they have to commit to all new kinds of rules. And if their house is simple and stupid, they can let everything pass by. So I think there is a need to promote the right behavior and stimulate it with from the top down.
Seducing is an interesting word.
What comes to my mind when talking about top down and bottom up in terms of HEMS and energy management is that bottom up is the HEMS solution, right? Looking at the single household optimization, which is great, but we need way more. And this top down is bringing the grid operator into the game. Because we have this huge potential in all these households who have a HEMS. And we need to unlock that flexibility because it's really an option to have to have less grid expansion and use less resources for it, because we have these flexibility in the households, and that's where it needs to be connected with the grid operator. So it's a must to bring these two worlds together.
Your systems solutions cost money. Do you think it's just a financial-driven decision for the end customer, or if there is no subsidize or promotion from the government, do you think this can be really deployed at a large scale? What do you think?
It's a good question. So from looking at customer research, looking at personas worldwide, it can be said money is the biggest aspect. That's just it. That's how the world goes, right? But right next after it's the idealistic and the people who want to have an impact and change something. So that's right behind it. But money is the biggest factor in all of the personas we look at all over the countries.
And the energy management system can help very much. If you have your own solar panels and you let the energy management system decide when to charge your car instead of having the user plug and start at the moment that he or she decides, that will save a lot of money. So principles and money can go hand in hand.
Well, in that presentation, that photo that I showed you of that basic power generator, well, that's what you do when there is no other means, right? That you are in a situation of stress because you don't have electricity for so many hours. So you go for the most or cheapest solution, I can say, but definitely not the most optimal for the grid. There is another buzzword that I've heard also today. Well, that buzzword is actually in your working title, Tamika, virtual power plants. I actually listened to a nice presentation today. They were talking about this, like you might not have the space for a battery, but your neighbor has, and a neighborhood or a cluster of houses can become as a virtual power plant. There is obviously a lot of legislation involved as well. Some countries allow this, like in Portugal. I learned today that you can do this. You can sell your excess electricity or energy to the neighbor, paying a low fee for the grid usage. In other countries like Spain, you cannot do that. So yeah, there's a lot of legislation involved. But besides that, if you want to optimize the usage of that cluster, you may want to make it run automatically, like the home energy management system. But sometimes you need to override the system because you may have an unscheduled event and you want to prioritize the charging of the EV, or you are warned that there is a load shedding coming and you want to charge the battery. How dangerous is this? That the end user can gain control of the system, because you said, Tamika, that you are the first manufacturer of home storage systems that offer the control of your system over KNX. How is this solved, the optimization of the system over the overriding the control from the end user? How do you solve this?
It's a matter of priorities, right? So first of all, nobody has to be in a VPP. It's voluntarily. So you sign up for this voluntarily and say, I want to participate or not. You don't have to. So that's that level. And then obviously, as I've said, so you can prioritize what is my goal. Is it contributing to an energy community, what you just described? Is it my self-optimization? And in the end, it's really looking at what do you want to optimize after. Is it financial flows? Is it carbon flows? Is it having as much local energy as possible? It's all possible. You just have to sign up for the special offer then.
And signing up is very important. You have to keep the user on board. If you force anything into it, of course, if you have to choose between a total blackout and choosing certain appliances, you choose certain appliances, but you let the user decide which levels he wants to control and in what points you want to shut off access.
Yeah, and also that's a great point, because in standardized solutions as we have, obviously we can't customize it all, right? And that's where KNX comes into place, because you just have way more possibilities to have the really specific use case in there.
Do you think these virtual power plants will eventually become more mainstream? That's going to be the future of how energy is created and distributed? It's going to make an impact in our grid? Or we will see the current model of big power plants and big consumption on the other side of the board? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, you can see that big companies that build buildings often build entire neighborhoods, and they have the possibility to create a neighborhood shared solution where people can store their energy or get some energy when it's very expensive from the grid. And that helps a lot because that shares the costs as well between all the people, because especially on the lower side of the housing community, people will not be able to afford this, and making it a communal system makes it a lot easier available for a large group of people. So I think that's a very important part, but it has to be standardized so you know how to communicate with it and get the information in your energy management system to use it.
I'm with you that this is totally on the rise, and I would actually, so as you said, VPPs is used quite a lot, and I differentiate, there are different kind of VPPs. That's a pretty simple one, having 1 or 2 big batteries and let's say a handful of prosumers on it, and like, let's say, simpler demand response, and that's definitely on the rise, and that's great. But what we also have is, and what we, for example, do in our VPP is really frequency containment reserve. So grid stabilization with a few thousand of distributed assets, which react in like less than a second, and you have really high standards to meet. And I don't see the evolution in this part of like really high sophisticated VPPs coming as much as in simpler VPPs, because it's just easier to really establish. Yeah.
Well, I personally think that a decentralized system is stronger. What is actually the core of KNX, right? It's a decentralized system. There's no central brain. So probably a decentralized energy production and distribution with those microgrids, virtual power plants, makes the whole system more resilient. And you can avoid a situation of like in South Africa, for example, where a whole country depends on one massive grid operator. Also about the configuration of the households, we see now that some houses, they just install a battery or energy storage without energy production, the renewables. Do you think there will be one specific setup for the houses, or we're going to see a combination of houses having solar panels and not energy storage, and the opposite, energy storage without solar panels, combination? Do you think one is going to be more important than the other?
Good question. So what we see in most of our markets is the trend that when you install solar, you buy a battery with it. So that's definitely the trend, but also is not everybody is able to afford it. So we still have houses with just solar. At the moment, we only have in some markets standalone batteries for backup solutions, like mostly US, Australia. So that's also a possibility. In my opinion, it'll merge. If we sit here in 10 years again, I think you will not pose this question anymore. But for now, yes, there still are different streams.
There are also national differences. In the Netherlands, for instance, there is such a beneficial solution for solar panels that it doesn't make sense to create your home battery, but that is not feasible for the longer future. So batteries will be automatically almost included for solar panels.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think we could continue for a few hours, but because we are running out of time, I really would like to get questions from the audience. Yeah, I already see some hands, so please, it's now your opportunity.
Hi, I'm Marianne from xxter, and I was wondering regarding, since we're talking about the housing topic, I never really hear about the fact that almost 50% of population in Europe live in apartment blocks. So I was wondering, what do you see as the hurdles, challenges regarding addressing demand-side flexibility for population which live in apartment blocks, maybe regarding profit sharing, service sharing? Yeah. So what are your thoughts and challenges to address that kind of flexibility?
Very good question.
Sure.
Yes, good question, but also to say, living in an apartment, not having an EV and not having a heat pump doesn't give you much flexibility, right? Yes, you can change your consumption of the washing machine, of your cooking time, but that's not so much flexibility you can actually play with. So definitely a good way to, and you need to incorporate these people, and as we just saw from the Sense guy, right? First part is making them aware of what's happening in the household and do what they can, but I personally don't see such a huge flexibility we have in these households.
You can, of course, put your white goods, if you're using spot prices, for instance, you can schedule your washer, your dryer, and maybe your water heater if it's not shared service from the apartment. But yeah, your options are more limited. Yes. But if you can share services with maybe a battery for the entire building, and but that's another.
Like energy community style.
Yes.
Well, I've seen, for example, in Spain, that if you have an EV, and you live in an apartment block, you are allowed to run a EV charger to your parking slot. So I think those buildings will eventually will need to, the same way you install a lift, they will need to install a communal energy storage and a building management system for energy. So, but I think we'll see that in a later stage than individual households. Thanks a lot for contributing, for listening, and thanks a lot to the panelists for bringing their expertise here, and FLEXCON for the coordination.